It's the annual EHA's Top 25 for the 2011 college football season. This time it's segment 3, ranking teams 11 to 15. Number 15, the Ohio State Buckeyes from the Big Ten Conference. Instead of talking about Ohio State repeating as Big Ten champs and possibly playing in the Rose Bowl or maybe even the BCS title game, all attention is focused on their off-the-field issues involving 5 key players and even head coach Jim Tressel. With all the turmoil combined with the emergence of Michigan State and the addition of Nebraska to the Big Ten, their reign as the Big Ten champs could be over in 2011. The 5 players suspended for the first 5 games of the season include running back Dan Herron, quarterback Terrell Pryor, offensive tackle Mike Adams, and receiver Devier Posey. Ohio State did sign top quarterback prospect Braxton Miller, and he will see significant playing time while Pryor sits the first 5 games. And although he won't win the position outright from Pryor, he will have a chance to establish himself as the true quarterback of Ohio State's future. These 5 games include a trip to Miami to take on the Hurricanes and the home conference opener to the Michigan State Spartans. So realistically, the Buckeyes could have 2 losses before they even get these 5 players and their head coach back on the field. If Ohio State can gather themselves after the suspension and come together as a team during the suspension, they could very well win the Big Ten title again and play in the Rose Bowl. Number 14, the Arizona State Sun Devils from the Pac-12 Conference. ASU is coming off a 6-6 2010 campaign in which they didn't even play in a bowl game. But for what it's worth, they were the best team not to play in a bowl game and probably could have beaten 75% of the teams that did play in a bowl game. They lost to USC, Wisconsin, and Stanford by a combined 6 points and were one of the very few teams who hung with Oregon the entire 60 minutes. The Sun Devils have a very deadly passing attack and returned 10 starters on the offense, including quarterback Brock Osweiler as the true number 1 now that Stephen Threed is gone. They returned all 4 of their top rushers from 2010 and 4 of their top 6 receivers from 2010. The defense is led by the scariest player in the nation and perhaps the best linebacker in the nation, Vontaze Burfict. The Sun Devils have the best front 7 defensively in the Pac-12 conference and outstanding rush defensive ends who can put pressure on the quarterback. The secondary has playmakers like safety Eddie Elder, but need to play more consistent on the outside to take pressure off the front 7. The special teams unit is also key to the Sun Devils' success. Their return men can return any punt or kickoff for a touchdown or set up the offense in great field position. But at the same time, the special teams also cost the Devils a few games in 2010 by allowing blocked field goals. This is a team built on speed, both offensively and defensively, as well as special teams. The Devils have athletes all over the field and will give any team fits as far as keeping up with them. The major areas of improvement for the Sun Devils is committing turnovers and penalties. They committed way too many turnovers in key situations in games, as well as committing penalties that cost them a lot of yards and even the outcome of games. If they can keep it clean on the football field and avoid penalties and turnovers, you can definitely see the Sun Devils compete for a Pac-12 title. Number 13, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, an independent team. The Irish hit their stride and started to roll strong towards the end of the season and capped off the year with a very impressive Sun Bowl victory over the Miami Hurricanes. The defense was the primary area of concern for the Irish all season. It didn't seem that they had playmakers capable of making plays in the open field, aside from linebacker Monte Teo. But that seemed to improve with the end of the year, and the Irish fans have high hopes that the defense can step up and help keep pace with the offense to make a run for a BCS title. The Irish have one of the top offenses in the nation and can keep stride with any other team in the nation. Michael Floyd is one of the top wide receivers, and if he can keep his off-the-field issues aside, he can be a dominant force for the Irish. He is very tough to cover in one-on-one situations and can make plays anywhere on the field. The players seem to be buying into Brian Kelly's system, and he has them believing that they can compete for a BCS title. They do have a very tough schedule with 9 of their teams that played in bowl games, not including USC, who would have been bowl eligible if not for the suspension. so the Irish have to keep it together all year and play very tough and continue 2011 just like they ended 2010. Number 12, the Michigan State Spartans from the Big Ten Conference. The Spartans were embarrassed by Alabama, a far superior team from the SEC during their Capital One Bowl last year. This was something they were not used to, playing the entire 2010 season in close, tough-fought games in which they found a way to win in the end. This proved that they could win in the clutch, something very valuable for any team. With the Big Ten being wide open and the recent issues with Ohio State, Michigan State has a very good chance to be the next Big Ten champions. The Spartans will have to rebuild their defense since they lose both top linebackers and both safeties, including star linebacker Greg Jones. But they do have Jarrell Worthy, the stout defensive tackle in the middle. The offense returns Kirk Cousins, so his leadership will be valuable, and both top running backs Edwin Baker and Le'Veon Bell. Look for the Spartans to make another statement in 2011 and prove that 2010 was no fluke. Number 11, the South Carolina Gamecocks from the Southeastern Conference. South Carolina needs to get over the hump and play consistently each week in order to become one of the elite teams in the SEC. They would look good one week, like beating Alabama, and then have a complete letdown game the following week, like losing to Kentucky. Quarterback Stephen Garcia has been suspended indefinitely after getting in trouble off the field for the 5th time, so it looks like the weight of the offense will fall on the shoulders of Connor Shaw. Garcia was already inconsistent enough and on a tight leash with Spurrier, so it looks like Shaw may be running the show in South Carolina. The offense revolves around 2 big-time playmakers, wide receiver Alshon Jeffrey, who is probably the best receiver in the SEC and nearly impossible to guard one-on-one, and stud running back Marcus Lattimore, who was a freshman sensation in 2010. Lattimore was the engine that drove the Gamecocks offense. When he was in, the offense was smooth and efficient. When he was out with injuries, they just looked confused. They didn't know what to do. So when Lattimore's healthy, the South Carolina offense, along with Alshon Jeffrey, can be one of the most potent in the SEC. The defense is stout and is led by one of the top cornerbacks in the nation, Stephon Gilmore, who is very effective in the return game and can cover any wide receiver in the SEC. Not to mention they landed the top overall recruit in the nation, defensive end Jadeveon Clowney, who looks to make an impact from day one when he steps on the field. To recap, we have number 15 Ohio State, number 14 Arizona State, number 13 Notre Dame, number 12 Michigan State, and number 11 South Carolina. Next up, we have segment 4, and we'll talk about teams ranked 6 through 10.